This is 3 inches, and to some, 3 inches might not seem like a lot. But for young women in China, this has become the new gold standard of Chinese beauty. I think this is a universal experience for all of us, but do you ever remember as a kid, your mum telling you to drink more milk so that you could become taller? Well, let me let you in on a little secret. Instead of having a glass of milk, why don't we go under the knife and crush our bones to reconstruct the anatomy of our fibula? I am dead serious. Pause. Am I hearing hammers and drills being used? Like, come on guys, are we at a construction site or an operating room? Not to mention, this bloke is way too fucking happy for someone who's about to crush another human being's bones. I don't think I've ever met someone so passionate about what they do. Talk about loving your job, hey? Jokes aside, the technical name for this sort of leg lengthening procedure is called distraction osteogenesis. Distraction osteogenesis. The only thing out here being distracted is me, wondering why the f is there a bone saw in the operating room? Huh? Now, for the anatomically challenged individuals in the audience, like myself, this process involves deliberately fracturing your leg bones and then mechanically pulling the 2 pieces apart so that new bone tissue can grow between them. The procedure begins by a surgeon cutting open your leg and breaking either your tibia or your femur into 2 separate pieces. Very casual fracture. Nothing to worry about. A metal device is then installed, and netizens now have 2 options from the menu to choose from. Either an external frame bolted to the outside of their legs, or an internal telescoping nail drilled directly into their bone marrow. I am no philosopher, but why does it sound awfully like choosing between the lesser of 2 evils? After the procedure, patients are then required to adjust the metal device themselves every single day by either turning a dial on the external frame or, I wish I was joking when I say this, using a remote control to extend the internal metal pole within their legs. A remote control, as if you're changing the channel on the TV, but in this case, the channel is your femur. And God forbid you lose the remote on the couch.
Where's the remote? Jenny! Mom and Dad are looking for the remote!
I'm only 5! I'm not even allowed to watch TV!
Beyond the absolute absurdity of this procedure, there are some serious and long-term health complications that arise from this leg lengthening process. Licensed surgeons warn of a very high possibility of perineal nerve damage, which is the nerve that controls the sensation and movement in your feet. They warn that during the bone stretching process, many patients may end up with a condition called drop foot, where you're physically unable to lift the front part of your foot when you try and walk. That is not a side effect, that is a disability, mate. Nerve damage also comes hand in hand with joint pain, because during the lengthening process, patients will be mechanically stretching the cartilage and connective tissue in the knee and hip joints simultaneously. And so it's no surprise that many netizens complain about developing early onset arthritis as a direct result of this procedure. I mean, the list just goes on, and at the end of the day, there's always the risk that the fracture just doesn't fit in with the bone, and you're left with a structural gap in your femur. Less than ideal result.
Your double leg transplant is complete. What do you say you give him a try?
It's amazing!
I'm sorry, you were saying something?
Oh, crumb.
Now, I am no doctor, but taking a look at some of these x-rays for netizens who have gone through the leg lengthening process genuinely make my toes tingle. And not in a good way. I'm taking a look at these pictures, and doesn't it remind you of those viral internet stories of people sticking foreign objects up places they shouldn't be sticking?
No.
Jokes aside, beyond the possibility of ending up with jelly legs, it's important to understand that the recovery process is often extremely demanding on your internal core. Netizens complain about daily physiotherapy sessions for months, sometimes years, trying to prevent their muscles from contracting and locking up as their bone lengthens. Because when you stretch a bone from 5 to 8 centimeters, you're simultaneously stretching the surrounding muscles, tendons, and ligaments, and none of these tissues grow back at the same rate as the bone itself. Beyond that as well, patients are expected to be on a full liquid diet for the first few weeks due to the extreme pain and physical immobility. I do not know about you, but I cannot survive without my Macca's or KFC for 2 weeks. Let alone my legs. The external metal frame that is bolted onto their legs is also expected to remain for the entire duration of the lengthening process, and netizens are expected to sleep with it, shower with it, and go outside with it. Like, imagine you're about to go on a grocery run and you just see Optimus Prime and his gang of Transformers pull up to the self-checkout register. And the funniest part? No one says a word because this is just your average Tuesday in China. What's even more baffling to comprehend is that some of these young men and women are spending upwards of $65,000 for the budget end of the process to well over $140,000 for the full premium remote leg lengthening experience.
What?
Now, it goes without saying that I am not particularly interested in going through with the budget end experience for someone to literally break my legs. If anything, I would like to keep my money and my legs while I'm at it.
I like feet. I do not know why.
That being said though, you know what this process reminds me of? You know that torture method back in the medieval era? The one where they tie you out like a starfish and attach each of your limbs to a horse and then stretch you out in 4 directions? Yep, that one. It's absolutely crazy to think that 2 centuries later, we're replicating the exact same process.
What do you mean by that?
The only difference? We have qualified doctors performing this procedure instead of 4 horses. At this point, I cannot tell if China is just so ahead of its time or if it's just simply revolutionizing the torture experience.
My time has come.
However, to understand why Chinese netizens are willing to go through so much pain and suffering, we must firstly take a step back and understand the wider cultural context surrounding the notion of height in China. Because a large part of the conversation isn't actually about height itself, but rather what height represents inside China's deeply hierarchical and brutally competitive social structure.
你谈恋爱最低能接受多高的男生
？1.8米以下的男生在我这儿不及格。
Look, shout out to all my short kings and queens out there. But if you're a short fella in China, you for sure ain't getting no shout outs. In fact, people are out here shouting at you.
Oh! The little man comes out with a big shot and... Oh!
Look, jokes aside, China is a population of over 1.4 billion individuals, and the competition for university placements, graduate job offers, and marriage prospects is absolutely ferocious. This, combined with the rise of China's growing popularity of the cultural concept of physical rating, has created a social ecosystem in China where both men and women are systematically evaluated on height, face shape, and financial status.
你会跟月收入5000的男生谈恋爱吗？
怎么可能？他的收入都不够我1个星期的开销。
Now, you might think that I'm exaggerating, but if you scroll through any Chinese dating app, marriage market listing, or even job posting, height is frequently listed as a formal requirement. Flight attendants, police officers, and I kid you not, there are literal job postings of sales roles with a minimum height requirement of 168 centimeters. Like, what are you selling that requires a height requirement? Ladders? Height discrimination in China is so widespread, there's actually a term for it, and there have been formal legislative attempts to address the problem precisely because it's become so institutionally common.
Being the shortest in the friend group.
What?
Look, I get it. There is a strong social and cultural pressure to become taller because it provides you with a statistical advantage in many aspects of everyday life. Job searching, relationships, and even how many fries you get when you order a large chips.
Let me get 2 Big Macs and 2 apple pies. A little bit of Sprite in the side of fries. Let me get a McDouble, let me get a McChicken.
But to go through such extreme procedures just to grow a few inches? Sorry, I just can't comprehend it. I mean, just take a look at some of these young women who are going through the recovery process after the leg lengthening surgery and tell me, hand to heart, it does not make your toes curl.
去年我断了4根骨头。
Jesus, it sounds like she's either giving birth or having way too good of a time with the doctor. I guess we'll never know. Now, to be fair, I want to give credit where credit is due. The original procedure, called the Lazarov method, was actually introduced by a Soviet surgeon in the late 1950s as a response to people who had gone through bone fractures that hadn't healed, limb deformities, and bone diseases, especially for soldiers recovering from World War II. This is a legitimate and genuinely life-changing procedure for those who actually require it. But somewhere along the past decade, some random Chinese bloke has decided, how can I take this medical procedure, which is meant to help people, and sell it to the plethora of insecure men and women on Douyin?
The first thing every salesman needs to sell is
leg lengthening surgery.
And to their credit, this procedure has actually become wildly successful and popularized by social media platforms like Weibo and Xiaohongshu. You will find full recovery vlogs, before and after transformation content, and step-by-step procedure breakdowns that walk through the entire process. There are countless videos of influencers sitting in their hospital beds with metal frames bolted to their legs, casually discussing their height journey as if they were reviewing a new moisturizer. Look, I genuinely feel bad for the bloke who has to wheel around his girlfriend the entire time. Hold up, is that a elevator? You know what? All sympathy gone. At least they're rich enough to have a elevator in the house. I bet that'll help.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here.
Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Autonomy matters, and we are each our own individualistic human beings who can do what we want when we want with our own bodies. That being said, we also have to be real. Not all of us can look like Henry Cavill from Superman, and while each of us has the free will to change what we want, we need to firstly accept who we are as an individual and how we are each uniquely beautiful in our own ways.
You're like really pretty.
Thank you.
So you agree? What? You think you're really pretty?
Man, shut your...
And while I can appreciate the shock value from a procedure like this, what genuinely disturbs me isn't actually the process itself. It isn't the construction site in the operating room, and it isn't even seeing Optimus Prime in the self-checkout register. It's the fact that somewhere along the way, Chinese society has looked at a perfectly functioning human skeleton and decided it wasn't good enough and needed to be broken and remolded to the unrealistic standards set out by popular media and idol culture. Subscribe if you also think your body isn't meant to be built like a bunch of Legos. Get it? Legos?
And what the is you talking about?
What's that?